You stand at the edge of a colonnaded square where the air tastes like iron and salt, where the sun is a blistering coin that burns the back of your neck and throws the marble into harsh white. There is a smell, not of incense or victory, but of something animal and ancient. Blood, wet earth, the faint copper of coins gone cold. A wind moves through the forum and it carries with it the low, grinding murmur of men talking as if the world is a thing to be bartered. Torches sputter in the shadow of statues whose faces were once carved with care and now look down like judges who have fallen asleep on their duty. You are forced forward because bodies do not politely step aside when a spectacle beckons. Roman sandals slap the stone in measured cadence. The legions form a polished edge, reflecting a discipline that is part show and part threat. A noise rises, not quite music, more like the scraping of iron against the chest of civilization. You feel reverence and revulsion braided together in your throat. There at the center are queens, not mythic queens and jeweled divinities, but real women of earth and breath whose crowns have been torn from them and replaced with ropes, corded like a garland of shame. Their hair is bound, their dresses soil-streaked with travel and weeping. You see the way the light catches in their eyes. Not submission, but the raw, flaring awareness of being watched. The crowd leans in and you lean with them. History has taught you curiosity as a reflex. Horror and fascination are cousins in your ribs. A soldier steps forward, his armor a forest of polished plates, the white of his tunic edged in red. He draws a leather thong from his wrist and lays it across the backs of the queen's hands like a delicate insult. He speaks words in a tongue you do not know, and the crowd laughs like they know the punchline. A trumpet blares, shrill, ceremonial, and the chorus of that sound slams into your body like a bell struck in a cathedral. You feel the vibration in your sternum as the spectacle becomes a ritual. Close your eyes and breathe. The air is stifling with the breath of 1,000 bodies. You can taste salt and ash. When you open your eyes, you see the first real horror, a tableau arranged for the benefit of the empire. The queens are led through a line formed by trophies. The banners stolen from their lands, the banners that smell faintly of smoke and burnt grain. They pass under the eyes of men who measure their worth in captured banners and the softening of a sovereign's mouth. The soldiers prod them with javelins as a dog is coaxed along a leash. There is mockery in the way they adjust a fallen crown on one queen's head like a pirate dressing a prize. The captain signals. A column of children, the city's youth, trained to cheer at dominion, begin to clap. The sound is salacious, hungry. You think of the mothers who taught those children to clap for triumph and wonder whether they ever taught them about mercy. Something else. A smell like a mass grave has been freshly opened. It is a smell that disguises itself as age or victory, but it is the complex odor of cruelty rendered habitual. Curls into your sinuses and refuses to let go. You feel the weight of the empire pressing on your back, making you smaller. You sense that this will be a memory you will carry, a shard under your tongue, metallic and impossible to ignore. You are not yet told the why. You only know the who and the what. Queens of unnamed provinces, brought like offerings to the center of power. You do not yet understand the politics that made them captives, the treaties broken, the sieges that burnt their cities to cinder. That revelation will come. For now, your job, if you are honest with yourself, is to witness the unspeakable moment as it unfolds. The instant when sovereignty is made into spectacle and dignity becomes currency in a market of humiliation. You see a man, older, his robes once purple now stained with dust, eyes hollow with the excavation of hope. He is a scribe, perhaps, or an envoy forced to translate the state's version of things. He records the event as he watches, scratching reed on papyrus like a priest scribbling prayers to a false god. His hand trembles a little. You wonder if he, too, will live with the taste of the day in his mouth. You hear a queen whisper something into the ear of another, words that the crowd cannot hear. The camera of your mind lingers on their faces. Fierce, weary, and unsurprised. There is a quiet dignity that will not be taken from them entirely. And yet, there is the subtle, devastating detail. A strand of hair missing where fingers have torn at it in desperation. A bruise the color of an old inked letter. A tiny pendant inverted, its blessing no longer aligned. These small, human things render them painfully real, not merely symbols in an imperial parade. The most chilling part arrives when one soldier, possibly intoxicated by the permission of spectacle, brings out something that will haunt you. A ledger. Not a ledger of indemnities or treaties, but a ledger of spoils. Names recorded, prices assigned, and, horrifyingly, a tally of honors to be performed upon each captive. The captain leafs through it as if choosing a recipe. A hush falls, unnatural, like a curtain pulled across a room mid-scene. You understand, in the boiling clarity of that hush, that what you are witnessing is not an accident or an aberration. It is a rehearsed performance with rules and precedents. This is an institution of humiliation. You want to cry out. You want to throw yourself into the square and topple the standards, to scream until your voice is raw. But you are bound by an invisible law, the law of the crowd, which is to watch, to cheer, to be complicit by presence alone. Instead, you feel the first prickle of nausea, a physical rebellion against the dissonance between human suffering and public sport. What makes this moment unbearable is not only the physical indignities. The queens are paraded, mocked, and adorned with the trappings of defeat, but the symbolic violence. Each act is a sentence written against their histories and the histories of their people. When a soldier places a child's broken toy at the queen's feet and laughs, you understand that this is not entertainment alone. It is an erasure. This is how the state tells a story. The story that some lives are worth spectacle and others only the roles assigned by the winners. You search the faces in the crowd for dissent and find only the formal gestures of disapproval practiced by a few while the rest clap on cue. There is a pair of old women in the shade, their hands knotted around their cloaks. They glance away, eyes wet, but their timidity holds them silent. A bronze statue of an emperor presides over the square with an insouciant grin, his marble lips untouched by the truth beneath him. You want to smash that statue. You imagine the sound of a chisel and the clean. The trumpet blasts again, and the queens are forced onto a low platform. They kneel as if praying. Their knees scuff the stone. One of them, a woman whose eyes are the color of winter water, lifts her chin. Her gaze finds yours in a flash of recognition that feels like a personal indictment. She mouths a word you cannot hear, and you wish you had the ears to catch it. Is it a plea, prophecy, a curse? The ambiguity burns. Now the soldiers bring out the standards of the provinces the queens once ruled, embroidered beasts, weathered colors, the woven tales of a people's faith and lineage. The soldiers unroll them with theatrical arrogance. You see, in the braided threads, scenes of harvests, weddings, and rituals. Lives that once thrummed under the queen's protection. A young legionary steps forward and uses the spear of his standard to trace the embroidered face of a goddess sewn into the cloth. He laughs, fingers rough on sacred imagery. You feel an ancient, stubborn sorrow at the desecration, like a piano key struck in the wrong register. There is a ritual to this desecration. First, the banners are displayed. Then the captives are forced to touch them, to kiss them, to stain their hands with the cloth that symbolizes their defeat. The crowd whoops. A child shouts imitative jeers. The queens oblige, not because of compliance, but because resistance may carry a cost the world is not prepared to stomach on its own. You watch their lips press against the fabric and feel your stomach knot over the intimacy of such forced contrition. As the ritual continues, you notice a secondary layer. The small, private cruelties that men like to call civility. A soldier with a neat beard offers one queen water in a silver cup. She drinks. She does not flinch at his face, but when he wipes her mouth with the back of his hand, the gesture reads to you like a theft of dignity disguised as aid. You see the ledger again, the methodical entry of such performances, the mercy column alongside the mocking X. It is bureaucracy designed for humiliation. You wonder how the queens have endured so much and still retain that thread of unbroken sovereignty. Perhaps they hold a private, sacred litany each morning that fortifies them. Perhaps they have memorized the names of their ancestors and whisper them like armor. Perhaps, in the deepest night of their captivity, they still taste the smoke of their city's hearth and remember the smell of a child's hair. Whatever the source, their small acts, a held breath, a defiant blink, a word softly mouthed to a neighboring captive, stitch them to their former selves. There is a moment when one of the queens, the Winterwater Eyes, stands in a way that is almost ceremonial. She raises her hand not in surrender, but in a gesture that might once have been a blessing. The soldier nearest her laughs and makes a cutting motion across his throat, a mock execution. The laughter swells into a roar. You feel the air press against your chest, and for a second the square becomes not a place of civic life but a slaughterhouse for dignity. Then, because history is obsessed with image, the captain orders the captives to be posed for a sculptor who, apparently, has been commissioned to immortalize the moment. The sculptor sets his tools on a marble slab and stares at the group with a look that is half pity, half artistic ambition. He carves his memory into clay the way the empire carves truth into stone. You imagine his fingers shaping the captives' faces into monument, a final insult rendered permanent. As this grotesque theater continues, a whisper threadlets through the crowd, a rumor that will ripple out into the pages of the future, that these captives were not merely defeated militarily, but were accused of crimes so egregious the state could not allow their dignity to remain intact. You do not yet know the specifics. You only sense the machinery clicking in place, gathering facts, fictions, and witnesses, grinding them into a narrative that will justify what you see. This is how ruin is whitewashed, by invention of a crime, by enumerating sins, by turning humanity into a dossier. And yet, there is one more thing you witness that will not be lost. At the edge of the square, hidden beneath a cloth that smells faintly of wine and old paper, a child has slipped a carved token into one queen's palm. Crude, perhaps, a small wooden figure burned with a sigil. The queen conceals it with the ease of one who has practiced hiding relics. She closes her hand, and in that secret clasp is the seed of defiance. You see the sharp intake of breath she makes. It is an ancient echo of a vow. Remember, keep. The last image of the day, before you are pushed away by the tide toward the periphery of the city and the story squeezes into the archives of rumor, is that of a single lamplight catching on the tear track of one queen's cheek. It shines like a solitary pearl against the rough tapestry of a brutal afternoon. You carry that image with you like contraband, the way refugees keep one stolen heirloom hidden beneath their garments. You leave the square with the taste of ash in your mouth and the image of the ledger burning in your imagination. There is a promise whispered in your bones. The truth history buried will be unearthed. You do not yet have the name of the queens, the details of the sieges, or the treaties that cracked like thin glass. You only have the image, this living tableau of humiliation, and the knowledge that you have witnessed a foundational cruelty, an event that the victorious would rather compress into legend than explain. The truth will reveal itself in fragments. Letters burned, a messenger with singed scrolls, a monk's account patched together in margins of a manuscript. You will find bones with jewelry lashed to them, and you will learn to read stains on the map as narratives of oppression. For now, the square empties, torches gutter, and the soldiers march back into their barracks with their spoils, while the queens, their faces set like unbroken clay, are led away. You will ask yourself later whether the crowd felt guilt under their applause. You will wonder what it is to be an empire that polishes itself on the bones of others. And when you finally learn the names of those queens and the small acts of power they once wielded, the scene will not soften. It will thicken. This is only the opening of the wound. The ledger has been closed for now, but your fingers brush it in the dark. You will want the rest of the story. The rise before the fall, the act that made the ruin inevitable, the slow rot that follows conquest, the private, unspeakable ways a mind or body is consumed. You will want to know how the captors rationalized their cruelty and how the captives, when left to the quiet room of their own souls, repaired themselves with the thread of memory. Before you can pull that thread, the sun goes down and the square becomes a smear of shadow. The statues are silhouettes. The torches are little moons. Somewhere a scribe dips his pen. Somewhere else, a queen hums the name of her child and promises the night that she will remember. You keep that promise with her. You will follow the ledger into the archives, pry open the state's polished speeches, and read the margins where truth still breathes. You will find letters that do not lie entirely, fragments of songs, a grain of incense stuck in a seam of a robe. You will learn the names. And when you do, you will know that what the soldiers did that day was not a single barbarity but a method repeated and refined. That the spectacle was a language meant to instruct the empire and terrorize the periphery. That the ledger was not an aberration but a manual. The horror you witness now will be the key to the rest. Ask yourself, as you walk away from the square and the city's murmur swells around you like tide, how does an empire make its cruelty feel like righteousness? And what happens to the women whose crowns are torn and whose stories are filed under contempt? The answer will come not in the roar of the crowd, but in the thin, tremulous voice of the queens when they finally speak, in the documents tucked into cloisters, and in the bones that will one day be counted. For now, the sun sinks below the parapets. A soldier stamps out a torch. A queen looks back once, and the lamplight catches the wetness on her cheek. It is a small rebellion, incandescent. You tuck that light into your chest and you step into the long, dark road that will lead you back through time, to the rise before the fall, to the catalyst that birthed the ledger, to the slow, terrible descent that turned sovereigns into spectacles. Follow closely. The truth waits in the shadows like a patient animal, and history, when it is honest, will demand that you not look away.